Alrighty. I have to adjust my levels because I forgot to turn my monitor down, so give me a second here. Okay. Actually, I turned it down a little bit too low. Can't hear it at all. All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and go over the anchoring of the monad, um, the universal life force currents in regard to aligning um, consciousness bands 7654321. And as soon as enough people come on here, I will go ahead and begin that. But for now, I'm going to diddle around. I actually thought I started about like 8 minutes prior to 10 a.m., which is the designated hour in which I begin these live streams on Wednesday and Friday. And I thought I had started the stream, but I didn't. I don't know what happened there, but anyhow. So, just waiting for people to show up. So, in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and play some music to pass the time. So, here we go. Hello, everyone. Good to have you here. Hi, Daphne, Sylvana. Uh, Trying to read the names. Sorry if I get it wrong. A debatter? Probably got that wrong. Sorry if I got that wrong. TLC, Pet Vet, DVM. Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to go briefly over the circuit that is understood as the aligning the pathway for anchoring of the monad, so the eighth dimensional mind or consciousness band, and the second dimensional emotional mind. So I'm going to go through this, and as mentioned, I'm going to go ahead. First, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip. I'll probably play it a couple times here. It's an excerpt from my book, found in Chapter 2. Chapter 2 explains a lot of things within my book. Excuse me. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way, the Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith, Chapter 2. So I'm going to go ahead and play an excerpt of that. And then we can begin.
This field can be seen as an electromagnetic circuit. An electromagnetic circuit comprised of layers of grids and regulated energy centers. The directed motion of energy is determined by the ratios of the electromagnetic fields, and the grids function as blueprints or templates for the transharmonic movement of energy. Within the grids, like a circuit, have points that control the flow or regulation of energy. Energy in this case is the substance of directed conscious awareness or intent, and that being a precise embodiment of intended awareness, again, the transharmonic transition of that energy.
Okay, so I can't hear my monitor, by the way, so I can't hear the playback, so I have to look to see when it ends. Okay. Can everybody see this chart that's in front of you on the screen? I'm gonna make it bigger, but I'm just asking you if you can see it. Just a yes or no is fine. I don't want to begin, really, until I know everybody can see what's going on. Sylvana, can you see this? Everybody else, can you see this chart? Daphne says she can see it. Like I said, I'm going to make it larger, but I'll come back to the screen and then you'll understand it based on after it's been described. Okay, great. Okay, so the title of this video is Anchoring the Monad. Okay. This is in preparation. There's various things that's preceded prior to the ceremony of the Taran. That music in the beginning, if you heard that, that's what that is without the words. And so it's important to understand the basic principle of how this structure is laid out. You know, it's not mystical. There's very specific order to it. And in reference to the voiceover that from the excerpt from my book there, it can be seen as a circuit. It can be seen various ways, and this is one of the ways that it can be seen, because when we're looking at the multidimensional aspect of the design in regard to our consciousness bands, or dimensional as it would be called, most people use the word dimension. I don't really use that term very much, and there's reason for that. Anyhow, point being is you see a very specific structure to it. So yesterday I put together this chart based on other um, charts that I had put together and configured it so that you can see how it lays out in regard to the circuit that I'm referring to, like a circuit, like an electrical circuit. And like all electrical circuits, you have to have a ground, otherwise they do not work. And this is no different. You probably heard or become familiar with the idea of grounding to the earth, right? The connection to the earth. This is where that comes from. It functions as a ground in order for the life force currents or the universal force currents to be able to flow within this environment. And we can see that. And be it that we are synchronized to the earth, all we have to do is go through the motions in regard to the grounding of it, because everything has to do with our intention. So we have to initiate it, if that makes any sense. Hopefully I didn't confuse that. Either way, you'll see what I mean as I go through this. Okay, so within a circuit, the emphasis here within the circuit is that you have to have the ground. Okay, you have to be grounded first before the current can flow. So this is a basic stuff, but for some people you may not know this, and that's fine. That's what this is for. And so that you can be clear with your intention when you do the practice, because I have a musical exercise for this, but it's important to see how it flows before you begin to sing any of these things. Otherwise, you're just kind of going through the motions without really in very much intention. And so this is about making clear your intention. All right, so no, I'm going to go ahead and see here. Okay. As mentioned in the voiceover there, that excerpt from my book, you talk about regulating energy. Excuse me, I'm having a problem with my throat today. Energy regulating centers. And to the left there, you'll see MC9, MC8, SCSX, 6, I don't know why I called it X, and then 321 Chakra within the lower part of the body there. Okay, so over to the right, you'll see these symbols that look like stars, and they're different colors. These are the seals that allows for the regulation of current flow. Without these, you couldn't exist in this body. Okay, you can't have a bunch of energy running through your body to that extreme without it being regulated. And to go back again to what I'd said earlier, this is a very defined, organized, structured system. Okay, so again, we're going to think of this as a circuit, electrical circuit. All right, but I just wanted to touch in on this a little bit, just to let you know, between each consciousness band, this is what we're going to call what is referred to as dimensions, because that's what literally it is. It's consciousness bands, or bands of consciousness, that's harmonically structured, and then it allows for the regulation of the flow of energy through a very structured system, again looking at this from a circuit point of view. So to the right there, you see the star crystal seals, and you see the different colors. I have all these charts within Patreon listed chronologically, so you go through the PDFs. It's easy to understand once it's explained, or once you have an idea what it is. And go to the next one down here, and you can see that below the feet. Okay, we'll revisit this. Let me go back to this here. Okay, let's go ahead and begin here. I'm going to be moving this around so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. There's not enough room on the screen without me having to move it around. In other words, moving it around, meaning moving it around, right? So, but this is a good starting point. All right. So there to your left, I'm going to go chronologically how this is laid out. Then we'll go back over it again and show you how it's marked. And I kind of marked it a little bit like a circuit so that it'd be easier to follow. So dimension one, chi. This is in combination, as I mentioned, it's going to be done. There's a way to sing this so you can tone with this because it's all about vibration and oscillation. Okay. So, yes, it's all real. This is actually structured. This is a structured mechanics in regard to our multidimensional anatomy. Again, for those who may be new here, this is about anchoring the monad. All right. So if you miss anything or have missed anything, you might want to go back to the beginning or watch this video again. I mean, after the stream is over. I will cover this stuff again more, but I just wanted to briefly go over this. This is more of an extensive thing that I cover within Patreon, but also primarily for the workshop. And the workshop has become one-on-one classes, okay? And that covers a lot of different things. It has to do with the individual and what they're really looking for. So, anyhow, so dimension one, and in regard to what is referred to as our chakra system, and remember, chakras is just energy centers that pertains to our consciousness within the harmonic field. Okay, as you can see it laid out there to the right, the body, and you can see a line and you can see these different colors. These are the different bands of consciousness, and this you can also refer to this as being dimensional as far as dimensions, and you can also refer to it as being DNA, what we would refer to DNA. DNA is the code of the biology which exists throughout the entire construct. It's not limited to the so-called physical, because everything's physical, all right? This is just dense because of the vibration oscillation. It's very slow here, okay, because it's the most outer world, okay, or outer worlds. So dimension one, chi, okay, that's the tone that we'll be using for this. And then we're going to be using the higher aspect or the faster oscillating aspect of that tone, which is on. So chi on, okay? This has to do with the singing of this, which you're doing, and it'll make sense when I go through explain what's happening with the circuit in regard to anchoring the monad, okay? You always begin with grounding. A circuit doesn't work if it's not grounded. There's no way for current to flow, okay? So it's the same thing within this construct. Where you think all this other stuff comes from? This every aspect of the electromagnetic system, which we depend on 100% within this world in regard to technology or whatever, this light here, everything is based on electromagnetic technology, and this is the construct. This is its design. It's harmonic. Okay, so why would it be any different? It's not, especially when we're pulling that from the source of what this is. So when we're looking at the different colors in relationship here, and I'm still going over what you see to the left there, the words that I'm reading here. So dimension one, chi, or in the higher aspect, on, and red being chi, the color red, okay, because frequency is color, okay. So red and then pale pink for the higher aspect, or the faster oscillating aspect. And then moving to key, and key is the 13th dimensional band, okay? All this will be explained, but I'm just trying to go over it quickly, and it's taking forever for me to do this. So you want to visualize the morphogenic chakra 13, which is the Earth's core, connecting to D13, the primal light fields, and the color here would be turquoise. Okay, and then moving into dimension 8 or consciousness band 8, which is Maya, and its higher aspect tone is Tua, and so we have gold and pale gold. Now, I would like to stop here just for a second and say all these things are really important because, again, this is a construct of sound and light, frequency, vibration, oscillation. All right. So just a little background, and I won't spend too much time with this, but if you look at the visual light spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, the visual light based on what we are able to observe, which is a very small sliver, what you're looking at is frequency. And you're looking at modulation of frequency. And so when you look at this chart here and you see their C1 or chakra 1, which means sound and light are one, it's actually 3 words. Okay, 3 words. I don't know why I put up 4 fingers, but 3 words. Chakra, sha meaning sound, ka meaning light, and ra meaning unified as one, because sound and light are one. Okay, it's perceived as separate things, but it's one thing with equal opposite expression. So when you're looking at the electromagnetic spectrum, you'll see red, then it moves into orange, and it moves into yellow, moves into green, blue. We're talking about the electromagnetic spectrum, that little sliver of visual light. This is science, okay? So when we look at that, what we're looking at is frequency. So we have a modulation of frequency, a movement of waveform, pulse waves that can be measured, okay? These are consciousness bands, all right? This is how we have our being and how we perceive what we perceive. There's more to it than that, but I'm trying to keep it simple. Don't want to overdo it. But when looking at this, toning these tones that represents that frequency and the color, and being able to visualize this as you're doing it, takes time, takes practice, is when things start to really engage, because your intention becomes much more solidified and focused, and therefore you're able to create intentionally. These things are not, people have had experiences, but a lot of them are experiences that they have that they don't understand how they work. And this is having the understanding of how it works and being able to initiate it with intent, purposefully. All right, so again, if I can, I'm going to briefly go back over what I just read over here and finish it out, and then move on to showing you the graphic in regard to how the current is flowing within the circuit, okay? And how important it is to first ground, right? So dimension 1 chi, its higher aspect, tone, on, the colors are red and pale pink. Then ki, which is dimension 13. Goodness gracious, today is a day. You're able to visualize as far as with the ground, which is the Earth's core. It's connecting to simultaneously the D13 primal light fields, and again the tone we have is ki, and the color is turquoise. And then we have the 8th dimensional, Maya Tua. Now the 8th dimensional or consciousness band is known as the galactic core, and what this is the beginning of the higher aspect vibration oscillation. Okay, here in the outer worlds, dimensions 1 through 7 are known as the lower. I prefer to use the word slower in regard to vibration. The vibration is slower. Okay, so in other words, it's also can be described as the vibration being higher, but that's just becomes it, well, what is required is defining yourself, because when we start thinking of that higher, we think of it being above, and that's the reason why I don't like using the word lower or higher. It's slower and faster. Okay, I got, there's new people coming in here, so it's important, at least for me, to be able to try to explain what I'm talking about so it's understood and it doesn't sound like I'm just talking about things. All right, so when looking at the consciousness bands in relationship to the time matrix, because time is a construct, everything and all part of it, it's all vibration oscillation. That's what it is. There's not a past, present, and future. It's just perceived that way. That's really not what's going on. It has to do with how long the vibration is or how short it is. That determines the point within the time matrix. In other words, you can use the words past, present, and future. But really what's going on is slower and then faster oscillation. And as you go up, you're going up in time, okay, which is referred to as future. But these things are important to understand. That's the reason why I've been going over them briefly over these last several streams. Why is it important? Because when you understand it as being a construct and you understand everything is based on vibration oscillation, and then you have very specific things that you're using within practice technique or within meditation, it makes things very, very clear, and it responds exactly to your intention, and because this is the way things work. You can do things willy-nilly and you just go with the emotional thing, but that's not really going to serve you all that well. Just not. You may have experiences, and that's fine, but it's more important to understand why you're experiencing what you're experiencing and have control over it. It's about being sovereign and exercising your sovereign ability. There's a lot that I could say about this. You can completely ignore everything too if you want, but uh, I'm just providing these things because it's something that one should know. If you want to practice it, that's great. If you don't, then that's fine too. But it's just your experience and your understanding and your control over it is better when you know what you're doing. That's pretty obvious, right? So I'm overstating this. So let me get back on track. So the galactic core, Maya, Tua, gold, pale gold, and then the dimension 5, Mana, Hum, being its higher aspect or faster oscillating aspect, then which is colors, frequency or frequency spectra, blue and pale blue. Dimension 2, Ki or O is orange and pale peach. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about anything before I move on? Because there's a lot here to cover, and I probably going to need to clear up some things that I may have confused. Okay, you've been following this channel for a year now, but always been skeptical. That's fine. A lot of things that I have communicated, I haven't really been able to communicate clearly enough through video because it's just so much work doing that. when I'm able to communicate directly to somebody or spend time, which usually ends up being hours in a lot of cases, um, that's where you start to understand or come to understand things a little bit better because there's enough time given for it. And if you have questions in real time, then if I'm able, I could answer those. But it's not an easy thing to follow this stuff, okay? But I've been trying to make it simple as possible. I've been breaking it down. I've been creating music for it. I've been like with this graphic here. I created this graphic. I I'm the one that came with the analogy of it being a circuit and all these things in order to be able to explain this in a more simpler way so that your intention becomes clear because it's about your intention. It's all about your intention, but the intention has to be clear before you know how to act, you know? That's why I'm using the word clear because there's no need for confusion. That's not going to help anything, right? So it does take a while. Um, what I would say is I wouldn't necessarily use the word skeptical. I would just use the word open. Allow yourself to be open and just come to understand it as best that you're able. And if you have any questions, that's what these lives are for, partly anyhow. That would be the time to ask the question based on what you're not sure of or whatever. But know this is not a construct that has, it's just by happen chance. It's just, like the Big Bang and it just came out of nowhere. We don't know where it came from. And it just, that's just silliness. That's theory based on ignorance. And there is a very defined structure to this construct, and we can see it in everyday activity, like with the electromagnetic spectrum and electromagnetic forces. We can see this is the reason why we have lights, the reason why we have all that technology that we have, because this principle of how things work. And when you look at the first vibration, thought, intention, the code for this entire thing, you can see the very fundamental workings of that from which everything comes out of. It unfolds in a very complicated way, but it starts off with a very simple um, thought design, okay? And then it unfolds because it is a consciousness design and it is a living consciousness construct. It is a consciousness field. The source field is a consciousness field. Everything is conscious within it. Consciousness is energy, and energy is conscious. So it's all living, and that's something you can't look. Well, anybody can look at it the way they want to look at it, but I know it as being everything is alive and it's conscious, and the very aspect of that first vibration, thought, intention facilitates me as a God sentient being. In other words, if you go out of the body as an example, it's going to facilitate your intent. If you get, I used this analogy before. Okay, here it is. And I know you probably heard this before, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyhow since I went ahead and started with this. If you go outside of the body and let's say you had a body, you got kicked out of the body, it expired momentarily, for a while. So you're outside of the body, you're not quite sure what just happened. And then you realize, well, I'm no longer in the body. Aren't I supposed to see a tunnel, And next thing you know, you find yourself in, let's say, in the middle of the earth, and you're in this tunnel, this dirty tunnel. So what happened there? Why did that happen? Well, it's because of your intent wasn't clear. Okay? And what it did was the system, which is referred to as particle, these consciousness units, which is living, everything is, it's a consciousness construct. It's an operating system also in that regard. You find yourself in the default state of what was in you. First thing that was related to your intent based on what you had said, which was, Isn't there supposed to be a tunnel? I'm not recommending that you go into tunnels. I'm just saying, I'm using this as an example. And so you find yourself in a dirty tunnel. Well, you weren't being very specific, so it went to the default that was within you. Okay? So then you realign what you're thinking and say, what, isn't there supposed to be a tunnel of light? Okay, now something else occurs. That which your intent was, now it's being more specific. So that's what I mean by the structure facilitates your intention. And it's important for your intention to be very, very clear if you want a very clear result. I'm not saying this will happen like that, but the practice of it is aligning your intention so it gets to a level where there is no variation or very little variation within your thought, in your intent, and your energy that you're holding. It's not like all over the map. And being skeptical can just put you in a place of holding. So it's better just to be open and wait for it to process through you. Because a lot of times the terms that we use creates negative connotations. And those things are recorded within us, just like the idea of the analogy in regard to the tunnel. And so as you within that particular analogy, you find yourself at that default within it energetically. And that is the energy that's being produced within a place of skepticism. So if you're going to be skeptical, be very defining of what that means for you and renew your mind to what you're being skeptical about. Otherwise, it's not productive, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so I guess everybody's ready to go through this thing. I'm rattling on here. This is really hard to do, folks, when I'm like just in front of the camera. I can't even hear, I can't monitor anything, I can't comment, I can just read. And once I start getting on a roll, I have to go through it. It's just the way it is, so I'm not looking to apologize, but I'm trying to explain myself. So there's a method to what I'm doing, and it takes a while to get there. Plus, I just put this together yesterday, and I haven't had time to even go through it myself. But I do know what I'm talking about here enough to be able to show you what I'm saying. All right, so we're not looking from the top. We're looking from the bottom, okay? This is where it starts. Again, it has to be grounded. This is how a circuit works. This is how you get the universal life force currents flowing. They don't flow from the top down. They flow from the bottom, and then it connects. Then it comes through. That's the way it works. If you look at the torus field as an example in regard to the Cathara grid, because that's another way to look at it as far as energy flow. If you know what it's doing, you see what it's doing. It's not static. The electromagnetic field, because it's all part of the same thing. There's a flow to it. There's movement. And when we look at, like, let's before I get into this, the Merkaba field, right? What is the Merkaba field? Again, we're looking at electromagnetic structure. We're looking at a base magnetic rotational field and a electrical acceleration field. So when you look at the symbol, which I don't have here, but you can see it. I can't blow it up, but let me see if I go back to this real quick. You see this six-pointed star, right? Or shape right here with the star crystal seal, okay? That you can refer to that as being a Merkaba symbol code, right? A light symbol code. All right. So what you have is two counter-rotating fields. That's what this is representing. Two counter-rotating fields. The magnetic field, which is on the bottom, and it's going up to a point right there, like a pyramid. Then you have what could be referred to as an inverted pyramid. okay, creating these 6 points. But these are circular rotating, counter-rotating fields, electromagnetic and electrical fields. And they spin opposite of one another at different ratio. And if it has a greater ratio for the magnetic field like we have here, this is the reason why we have such a slow oscillation, vibration here, right, which is longer, is because the magnetic rotation is greater than the electrical acceleration field, all right? So let me go back to where I was at. Okay, so let me see if I can move this around. Move, man. I'm moving something else. I'm sure I'm moving something else. There we go. I was moving something else. I'll find out soon enough when I go back to that page. All right, so the chi center, dimension 1. Goodness gracious, come on. Keeps going back to this other stuff and moving other pages when I don't want to. All right, so chi 1, right? This is your grounding. It's grounding to what? There's core. Okay? Morphogenic chakra 13. All right? Which is connecting to move this up a little bit more. Star crystal seal 13, which is connected to dimension 13. It's part of the same thing. Let me see if I can pull this down here again. All right. Go back to that, and let me go back to this. All right, so if you look at C1, chakra, sound and light are 1, dimension 1, frequency color, red, okay? And you see just above it, see this line coming from here and these representing star crystal seals? They're occurring above this energy center. And you have this throughout, as you can see. And what this is doing is regulating the universal life force currents. Think of these star crystal seals, think of them as being valves, allowing for a certain amount of current to flow through, because it has to be regulated, because if you had all the current flowing through you, you wouldn't exist here. It would just fry you quick as can be. So all this thing is very relative. So when you look at the star crystal seals, you see that they carry the same frequency color because it is of the same frequency. It's just part of that consciousness band. So C1 and star crystal seal 1, it's part of the same aspect, okay? And one has a particular function and the other has a particular function, okay? The star crystal seal acts as a valve for the energy flow, and the chakra is the consciousness band or DNA strand 1 or dimension 1 or consciousness band 1 or awareness. You follow with what I'm saying here? Okay. I'm sure you can. All right. Okay, so as you can see, C1 and the red line going down to the earth, right, to the core, which is morphogenic chakra 13, right? And it connects to, it's all part of the same thing. It blends, you can think of it as blending, okay? Within the circuit, because again, we're looking at this as a circuit, remember? And so this is how it's moving with intention. Let me emphasize that. This is how it's moving through intention, and this is how it moves through order, the structured order. And so you have the connection to Ki. This is the reason why I'm using these tones. Chi, Aun, Ki, Mea, Tua, Mana, Hum, Ki, O. All right? Is because of the order in which the current is flowing. All right? So it moves over here, as you can see. Blue, the blue is representing here this star crystal seal 13, right, which is dimension 13. And then it moves into Maya, okay, which is consciousness band 8, the galactic core. And this is where it flows through the top, Sylvana, okay, as you were saying, and moves through chakra number 5. We're going to go over what these are, but I'm just looking to go through the flow of the current here. And it moves through chakra number 5 and then moves into, finally, the emotional center, the emotional mind, okay? Chakra number 2, or Kathara number 2. Kathara, see, all these different names have relevancy, but they have to be defined. But it's all sharing pretty much the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's just different function. That'll make sense to you eventually. So apologies if I'm saying things I probably shouldn't be saying so early. Okay, so what we have here in the center, this line, this vertical column, okay, it's also known as the Har line because what is shared there is dimensions 11 and 12. 12 holds the blueprint, okay? So if we would experience regeneration, meaning the process of eternal life within manifest reality, because what we are is transcendent of manifest reality, but we're talking about manifest reality here. When the sound and light bodies do this fusion fission thing, like what you see with the Partikai, this creates a regeneration, and it resets the original template. This is how those who are in the universe that are like, some of them, because not all of them are working through the original, life force currents. But what they're doing is they're activating directly through their Merkaba vehicle, which creates this fission fusion thing. It's an ongoing thing that keeps them where they're technically, according to Earth years, would be, hundreds to thousands of years old, and they look like they're 33. This is it sets it back to the original template, okay? The whole idea of doing this is ultimately to be able to activate 12-strand DNA. Okay, that's a process. I don't know if that's even possible here, but it's, I certainly wouldn't not consider the possibility. It can be done, but not so easily. But your intention, again, really, really matters. And, especially with something like that, it would pretty much require coming in and having a lot of your codes to begin with. And starting from the earliest aspect of this incarnation. Like for myself at this latter part, I don't know so much about that, but, for those who are younger. Any rate, so let's take a little bit more look at, let's see if I can get this silly thing. It keeps getting where I can't move it. All right, so let's look at the first consciousness band. All right, when I referred to the Kathara grids are they're grids that are the templates that allow for the interfacing with these reality fields. It allows us to move into it. It's a transharmonic, connecting point. Again, it's sort of like plugging in, going back to the idea of a circuit. It's plugging into it. And so these grids, like with what you would see in a circuit, kind of, to think of it that way because it makes it easier to understand, you can see a various layout of how, depending on the complexity of the circuit, you can see how it's laid out in different layers, different circuit boards. Okay. Again, using these analogies to get a simpler way to look at it. So each dimension, chi here, which would be the atomic body, and you have 2/3 etheric energy, and then you have 1/3 matter. And as you move up, so does the fraction subdivision. So as you move up to the second one, it's 2/3 matter and 1/3 etheric energy. And then when you go into the mental, it's all matter. Okay? So these grids, each chakra, and which is a frequency spectra, meaning the color, of these bodies that we're referring to as Kathara grids or templates. So what makes up, when we look at dimension 1, 2, and 3, what we're talking about is 3 bodies, what we can refer to as bodies, making up the ability to have our being and our perception within this reality field, even though a lot of things here are deliberately limited, but we intended that they would ultimately be limited for the experience. Okay? There's much more to this than I'm willing to talk about right now because this would take forever. But there's I speak with innuendo a lot. I hint at things quite a bit, so apologies. But as you can see from dimension 1, 2, and 3, so the subconscious, and subconscious just means you can't perceive those things in this particular state that we're in, which is probably good. You don't want to walk around seeing the code and construct in front of you. That kind of would ruin the experience here. So the underlining code is a subconscious thing. It's there, but we don't need to see it. What we need to experience is what we're experiencing. I look at the guitars hanging on the wall there. I'm looking at the screen. I'm feeling things because I become the hologram. I've interfaced with this, and it consists of 3 consciousness bands, which again you can refer to as Kathara. You can refer to this as many things. So these 3 dimensions are 3 bodies that makes up our perception in its totality. So a harmonic universe, or a universe, is not to be referred to in the same way that some people refer to dimensions. However, dimensions or consciousness bands has a it's oscillation, it's vibration and oscillation. So it has this varying incremental movement within it as the oscillation becomes faster. Okay, as the oscillation becomes faster, then our perception becomes different than it is within the lower or slower aspect of the vibration. Okay, let me hold on a second here. Now, is everybody kind of following along with what I'm saying, or am I talking too much, or talking too fast, or not finishing thoughts that you think I should finish? So the intention to anchor the monad is to open the connection to the higher identity station of ourselves. Yeah, but like I said, there's a structure to all this. It's not. It doesn't. The emphasis I'm trying to make here is that there's a way that the universal life force currents run, and that's the reason why I keep saying this is a circuit. It has to be grounded first. I just want to make sure that's clear because that's really what's important. And what we're doing here, what we're looking to do here with the anchoring of the monad, so to speak, is that we're working with the 8th dimensional mind, and we're working with the 2nd dimensional mind. Okay, which is the emotional consciousness center here. And because the waveform, probably should pull that back off, because the waveform within these outer worlds, the vibration is so slow, okay? Which means the experience becomes like swimming through molasses here. Everything's just really slowed down. And, that's the experience. But along with it, because of certain other things that this produces and has been, in some cases, been manipulated, obviously, we have the emotional experience that's really exaggerated. And so there's not very much clearing taking place. And so it becomes easily distorted. So the idea is working through your feelings and your emotions are extremely important, but your intention with what you're doing with your energy has to be balanced. And so this takes time to get into that state. And eventually you're able to kind of drop into it within practices of technique or exercises or within your meditation. So when we're talking about here in regard to anchoring the monad, the eighth dimensional mind, this is the galactic core. We're moving, that's where our oversoul is, okay? That's that station of identity. So, and the emotional mind or the emotional center, which is, dimension 2 or consciousness band 2, when the scalar grid of these two aspects of self, because just clarify the word aspect in this case, the word aspect is referring to your station of identity as a soul, okay? Soul is a subdivision of your energy. It's not who you are, it's what you become within manifest reality. And so the scalar grid of that station of identity, which is oversoul, and connecting to the second dimensional mind, when that's done, because we're holding the intention and the template energy imprint, and it reconfigures the second dimensional mind, emotional mind, and this realigns the current flow due to the alterations that have taken place within the consciousness band 7 or dimension 7, dimension 6, dimension 5, dimension 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, when you look at how this is structured in regard to, and as I'm looking to communicate it as a circuit because it makes it easy, I think, anyhow, to follow it, it's important that you can see how it flows with one another. Okay? Now I'm going to make this stuff available as far as these diagrams, but I have to put it together. Like I said, I just did this really quick. So I could have to use it today. So I haven't put it into a PDF or anything like that. But as you can see it flowing, so it's going from the ground, from chi, and then we're grounding ourselves to the core, right? The Earth's Maharic shield, dimension 13, okay? Morphogenic chakra 13, and then it connects to that which is the tone that I'm utilizing. So I'm going to go over that here in a second, but then it goes into Maya, or the monad, eighth dimensional consciousness, and then it passes through your throat chakra, okay? Then it moves into your emotional center. So you see the loop of what's happening there? You see the circuit? That's what I would like to ask here. Is everybody seeing the circuit and how it works like a circuit? Okay, I'm gonna try to catch up with what y'all have been writing because I just been picking whatever stands out to me really quick. Okay, great, great. Does everybody else see this circuit? I'll go ahead and wait on for you to respond if you will. Because when I'm looking to put together the rest of this stuff that goes along with it, the practice, the technique that I come up with in order to facilitate this, which is singing this in order. And then if you have the PDF in front of you as you're doing that, um, then you can follow along and you can see it, and then you're singing it, and then as you practice it, it'll start to make more sense. Then all of a sudden your intention will start to grow, and then you can really be able to uh, move the energy, you know, very specifically. Okay, great. Yeah, all this is takes practice, you know, it's like anything. But all right. So I think I'm kind of done with that one. What else do we got here? All right, go back to that there. All right. Um, yeah, I said I was going to go over the music with this. I don't know if I can do that or not, but so what I ended up doing instead of writing new music, um, I put the tones to music and also modulated with it and added uh, the faster oscillating aspect tones that go along with it. And that's something I can do in another live stream and explain the reasons why I did that. It'll make sense. Eventually, this stuff starts making more sense. It's like, yeah, it's a lot simpler than what it appears to be. So instead of writing new music like I usually do, I go, what's the point? Just use the same thing I did for that for this. And so that's what I did. And I don't know if I should. I probably need to record that ahead of time so I can hear what I'm doing because I can't hear anything here. There's no monitor for anything. Because I'm using OBS and I've explained this before, but there's a delay on this, so there's a latency, and it just kind of drives me nuts to have that on. So I have to turn everything off, and so I think I need to do that anyhow, so I can record it, so people can have access to MP3 or the video. I'm trying to make things more available, like with the MP3 and using PDFs. I think that's a lot easier for people to access, and plus it makes more sense. That way they can utilize that anytime. They can download the MP3 for it, and they can just look at the PDF and do it as many times as they want. They don't have to sit there and watch a video. They can stop and start whatever at their convenience or wherever their leisure, wherever they may be. So I thought that would be the better way to go about doing it anyhow. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll do it live because I haven't been able to do what I used to do, because when my system went down, I lost virtually every software program and everything the way that I did things before, which was a huge thing. Um, when as you know, if you get used to doing something, it just your workflow becomes easier. You know what you're doing. You kind of create your own ways of doing things as well, and it just when that goes away, you have to start all over again. It becomes a difficulty. Well, at least it has for me, because I rather just kind of go back to the way I was doing things. It was just much more convenient for me because I was used to it. So I'll just end up recording live and just separate the MP3 or the audio from the video. I'll make a video and this make both optional, and I'll be posting that within Patreon. So all that stuff will be available in Patreon. And as always, initially it's going to be for paid members first before I make it available to the public. And um, you know, There has to be some value put on what I'm doing here. Otherwise, uh, I won't be able to continue to do what I've been doing. That's just a fact. So anyhow, I think that's pretty much it for today. I don't think I need to go over anything else unless anybody has any questions. Hopefully, again, hopefully this wasn't confusing. I wasn't really that prepared to do this, but most of the time yesterday was spending putting together these charts, believe it or not, for the aforementioned. Everything kind of requires me to do things a bit differently, so it takes longer. And Windows 11 is definitely not a better operating system. It's actually it's not a better one, that's for sure. That's one of the reasons why I lost the use of some of the programs that I had been using, and I've been using them for a long time. And I found through one of the programs that I've had and had been using, which was a preamp that I was using through Line 6, and I've used that for years. When Windows 11 came along, it was no longer functional. And so I could have, like, while I am doing a live stream or whatever, I could have the monitor on if I had that preamp on, because it would get rid of the latency. So Windows 11 is the reason why a lot of these programs that I had been using became obsolete, because they weren't willing to update anymore, because Microsoft is a pain in the butt, and that's a fact. So I don't have all that many nice things to say about Microsoft. Actually, I can't think of one. There's that. It's like, Randy, you mean you don't like Microsoft? Well, you know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out, I guess, folks. It seems like everybody stopped commenting, and I'm just rattling on here. So before I go, I just want to make sure everybody's cool. Is everybody all right? I'll wait. Yeah, thank you, Daphne. Yeah, it's important for everybody to please, if you like the video, please like it. If you want to comment, within the comment section, because the chat thing here, this doesn't appear until much later. That's what I noticed. And I don't know the duration, how long it takes for this to kind of be available. And also, subscribe, share if you can. I've been here for 15 years and I'm still under 10,000 subscribers. I'm like at 80 something or another. I'm not quite sure what it is, what I have, but I'm at least 1,200, subscribers from being 10,000, which is absurd after 15 years. Just, you know. I don't work towards the area of sensationalism, and I haven't done a whole lot of self promotion either. I just figured if people connect to it, they connect to it. This is an unconventional channel. It doesn't really deal with a lot of other things everybody else does. If you probably have noticed, I have never said anything about until now, only as a point of reference to what I'm talking about, or as an example too, is 3i Atlas, and everybody's going goo-goo over all that, and that's like I have nothing to say about it whatsoever. And there's a reason why I have nothing to say about it. I'm more interested in everybody kind of finding their place of sovereignty and working through their own creative imagination and contributing based on only what you're able to give within a co-creative manner. You know, that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'll continue to do. I will not follow all the stuff that's going on, have no interest in any of that. It doesn't really serve any purpose as far as I'm concerned, other than entertaining people. And I can figure better ways to entertain people than that. like through my music and different stuff like that, which I'll be doing here sometime soon, doing some live performances, but I have to get things together and ready for that in order to be able to do it. So, thank you for commenting, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it. I like you. I like your genuine sense of authenticity, you know. Just express yourself, you know. Treat others in the way that you would want it to be treated yourself. And sometimes that's kind of funny with people. They'll behave a certain way and people won't get it, but if it's authentically you, you know, go ahead and do it as long as it's, you know, done with taste. Of course, we have to be respectful towards one another. Yeah, Daphne's really busy as she's you know, she's been monitoring this and she's really working hard at it and she's got her hands full and at the same time with the children that she's taking care of. So let's give Daphne a hand, all right? Because she does an awesome job. Okay, she's couldn't do it without Daphne. That's for sure. So just well, I plan on going over this stuff again. Um, I'll be recapping a lot of stuff, and because ultimately this is really kind of leading towards one's personal soul song and the ceremony of the Taran. Okay, it just takes a while to do this stuff, and you know, and new people coming in and things like that. It's important to just be led, for me to be led and be directed, and you know, some things take a lot longer than, you know, some people would rather not it take it that long, you know, but this I'm thinking about everybody in the process of what I'm doing, and um, my hands are kind of full with that, so I'm just trying to give accordingly and just allow things to unfold as they're able to unfold. Yes, she is, Sylvana. Daphne is a sweetheart. All right. So she's got a great sense of humor too. Um, well, I'm going to go ahead and just play a song. This is a one of many songs that I've written, and I was actually able to record this as proper as I could. I was able to spend time with this. This goes back some years. It's actually the song that's on my channel, again, to claim who we are. And just to give you a little story about that, I was very, just, you know, transparency here. I was very, very ill at this time when I recorded a lot of these vocals. The music would had already been recorded, and I was able to give my attention to it. And some of it, like again to claim who we are, it took me like 4 or 5 days to mix it. Mainly because the middle section of it, the interlude part, is it's so complicated. So I was trying to separate what was going on within the harmonies of it. And there's an interesting story behind that outside of this, what I'm saying. The what I refer to as being the more interesting story, because nobody really wants to hear about one's suffering, but I was actually there was quite a bit of suffering during the vocal part, what I was doing at the time. Hopefully you can't tell because I gave my all for it, but I wasn't able to EQ it or everything. It was just like me in front of a microphone, and it turned out all right. But anyhow, the interlude section was done two different ways. First time I did it like technically, you know, musically, mathematically, harmony wise, and it just sucked. I go, it just so I just scrapped it. And what I did, I just went with my intuitive sense, and I played a melody, okay, over that section, and then I muted that melody, and then I played another melody, and all this is instinctive, okay? I played another melody. I changed different tones, okay, different sounds to get the sound that I was feeling that should be there. And I did this with as a, I guess, a 4 or 5 part harmony. And then that's probably what took me so long to mix it, because I had to pan it and in order so that it would be, relatively clear. But what was interesting when I played it back, it was like this perfect harmony. It was just a go, and it fit the song perfect. So I was bringing in my, you know, more clearer self, for lack of adjective here, in that moment. So it's one of my favorite songs that I've recorded. So I thought I'd just share that with you. Hopefully, it doesn't goof up, because I've been having issues here with live streaming where the system gets overwhelmed and then it stops streaming. It just shuts down. In other words, it crashes. So hopefully that's not the case for this. So blessings to you all. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. All right. Oh, I have found my heart once again, and now draw close to that for long, and seeing the beauty of ourselves and the purity of thought. Oh, shine forth the light, love forever bright, to again to know our way, to expand our light this day as a fiery burning star, and so to claim who we are. Let us surround this our life with the truth of knowing all that we are, to renew our daily mind, and so to live from the heart. Oh, shine forth the light, love forever bright, to again to know our way, to expand our light this day as a fiery burning star, and so to claim who we are.
expand our light this day as a fiery burning star, and so to claim who we are. Oh, shine for light, love forever bright, to again to know our way, to expand our light this day as a fiery burning star, and so to claim who we are. Oh, claim who we are. So to claim, let us surround this our lives with the truth